The year 536. The sun disappeared. Not for an eclipse, not for a storm. For 18 months straight. A volcanic eruption in Iceland sent ash across the northern hemisphere so thick that chroniclers in Constantinople wrote they could stare directly at the sun without hurting their eyes. The temperature dropped 2.5 degrees Celsius globally, enough to trigger crop failures from China to Ireland. Historian Procopius called it a year without light. Byzantine Emperor Justinian watched his empire descend into famine while the sky stayed dark. This wasn't mythology. This wasn't exaggeration. Tree ring data from 2018 confirms it. 536 was the worst year to be alive in all of human history. Here's what one day actually looked like. Constantinople, April 15th, 536. Population 500,000 people. That's larger than any city in Western Europe. Larger than Rome had been in centuries. The only megacity west of China, and it was starving under a sky the color of iron. You wake up in a tenement block in the Mise district. Not a palace, not a villa. You're a dock worker. Your apartment is 12 feet by 12 feet. 3 families share your floor. The walls are so thin, you can hear the baker's wife coughing. 2 rooms over, that wet, rattling cough that's been spreading since the darkness started. The room is cold. It's April, but it feels like November. You've been sleeping in your wool cloak for 2 weeks straight because firewood now costs triple what it did last year.
This bread
Your
is
wife
barely edible.
has already left for the markets. Your son, 8 years old, is still asleep on the mat in the corner. His lips are cracked. Everyone's lips are cracked. The crops failed last harvest, and the new planting should be sprouting by now. But nothing's growing. Nothing will grow in this light. You step outside. The sun is up. You can see a dim disk behind the haze, but it gives off no more light than the full moon. Chronicler Michael the Syrian wrote that the sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, during the whole year. You've lived in Constantinople for 32 years, and you've never seen anything like this. Neither has your father. Neither has anyone alive. The streets of the Mise are packed, not with merchants, not with shoppers, with people standing in bread lines that stretch 4 city blocks. The imperial grain reserves are being rationed. Every citizen gets 1 measure of wheat per week, about 2 pounds. That's supposed to feed your entire family. It won't. So you're here at dawn, hoping to trade your only spare tunic for another pound of grain from someone who stockpiled before the prices exploded. The smell hits you first. Unwashed bodies, rotting garbage that nobody's collecting anymore. Smoke from cheap tallow candles, animal fat that people are burning now because olive oil costs more than wine. And underneath it all, something sweeter. Something wrong. There's a cart at the corner of the Augustasian, where they've been stacking bodies since Tuesday. The city can't bury them fast enough. But that wasn't the strangest part. The Hippodrome still ran races. Twice a week, same as always. Chariot races for 50,000 spectators, while
For the
people
Greens,
starved
for
in the
the
streets
Blues.
outside. The emperor needed the crowds distracted. The Blues and Greens, Constantinople's 2 racing factions, needed their rivalry to continue, because without it, they'd turn on each other, or worse, on the emperor. So the chariots ran, the crowds cheered, the sun stayed dark, and everyone pretended this was normal. You make your way toward the docks. Your shift starts at the 2nd hour, about 8 a.m. by our time. The Golden Horn is usually chaos at this hour. Ships from Egypt loaded with grain, ships from Syria carrying olive oil, ships from the Black Sea bringing furs and slaves and amber. Today there are 11 ships in the harbor. 11. You counted them yourself last week. Usually there are 60. The Egyptian grain fleet hasn't arrived. It should have been here in March. Word came last week that the Nile flooding failed because of the cold, and the harvest in Egypt, the breadbasket of the empire, was 40% below normal. The warehouses in Alexandria are empty, the ships aren't coming, and Constantinople, a city of 500,000 people that imports 90% of its food, is on its own. You're assigned to unload a merchant ship from Antioch. The cargo is supposed to be wine and pottery. When they crack open the hold, it's half empty. The captain sold most of his goods in Smyrna for triple the price because he knew Constantinople was desperate. The harbor master threatens him. The captain laughs. What's the harbor master going to do? Ban him from the port? They need every ship they can get. By midday, your hands are bleeding. The rope work has torn through the calluses you've built up over 15 years on these docks. You haven't eaten since yesterday. The bread line this morning never reached you. The grain ran out when you were still 40 people back. Your supervisor, a man named Cosmas, who used to slip you extra copper coins during good months, looks like he's aged 10 years in 10 weeks. He's not slipping anyone anything anymore. The sun is directly overhead now. You can look straight at it. It's a pale, sickly disk the color of old bone. The temperature might be 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold for April in Constantinople, where it should be in the 70s. The women working in the textile factories across the harbor are wearing winter cloaks. In April you can see your breath when you exhale. Then, the church bells start. The Hagia Sophia, the largest church in Christendom, still 15 years away from the massive reconstruction Justinian will order in 532, is calling for afternoon prayer. But it's not just afternoon prayer. It's another procession. The Patriarch has been leading processions every week since the darkness started, praying for the sun to return.
Have
Thousands
mercy
of people
upon your
join.
servants.
They carry
Deliver
icons.
us from this
They
darkness.
chant psalms. They genuinely believe this is God's punishment for the empire's sins, and if they pray hard enough, the sun will come back. You don't join. You can't afford to. You need the work, but you watch them snake through the streets, a river of humanity crying out to a sky that doesn't answer. The procession passes the Forum of Constantine, where a 120-foot marble column holds a bronze statue of Constantine the Great, dressed as the sun god Apollo. The statue is supposed to radiate divine light. Today, it looks like a shadow. By the fourth hour of your shift, around 2 p.m., a fight breaks out. Two men arguing over a barrel of salted fish. One of them pulls a knife. The other grabs a dog hook. Your supervisor tries to intervene and takes a hook to the shoulder. The city watch shows up 20 minutes later, not to arrest anyone, but to confiscate the barrel of fish as evidence. Everyone knows they're going to sell it on the black market. Nobody says anything. The dock workers go back to work. The man with the shoulder wound sits down and keeps bleeding because the city hospitals are overflowing with sick people, and he knows he won't be seen for hours. This is what hunger does. It doesn't make people noble. It makes them animals. You finish your shift as the sun sets, or what passes for sunset when the sun has been dim all day. The sky goes from grey to darker grey. No red, no gold, just a gradient of ash. The temperature drops fast. You're shivering by the time you reach your tenement. Your wife is already home. She traded her last good pair of sandals for a quarter pound of dried lentils. Your son is awake now, asking when dinner is. You boil the lentils with water and a pinch of salt. That's it. No oil, no vegetables, no bread. The three of you eat in silence. The portion is small enough that you can feel your stomach cramping an hour later. Still empty, still wanting more. You try to sleep. You can't. The baker's wife is coughing again, louder now, and someone downstairs is crying. A woman. You don't recognize the voice. It doesn't matter. Everyone's crying about something. Outside, Constantinople stretches into the darkness. 500,000 people trying to survive in a city that can't feed them. The granaries are running empty. The Senate is blaming the Emperor. The Emperor is blaming God. And the sun, 93 million miles away, is still there, still burning. But its light can't break through the veil of ash that's choking the atmosphere. Here's the thing they don't tell you in history books. People didn't know this would end. You're living through April of 536, and you have no idea that the sun will start returning in 537. You don't know that this is a volcanic event. You don't know about atmospheric ash. You think this might be permanent. You think the world might be ending. Because as far as you can tell, it is. The next morning, you wake up and do it all again. The bread line. the docks, the cold, the hunger, the dim sun that gives no warmth. And the day after that, for 18 months, historians estimate that the 536 event and the subsequent cooling period killed between 25 and 50 million people worldwide. Crop failures, famine, disease. The Plague of Justinian, one of the deadliest pandemics in human history, began in 541, almost certainly triggered by the malnutrition and chaos of the 536 cooling. Constantinople's population dropped by 40% in a decade. The Western Roman Empire, already collapsing, accelerated its fall. China saw mass rebellions that toppled dynasties. The Maya civilization in Central America saw a population collapse from which it never fully recovered, all because of ash in the sky. A single volcanic eruption in Iceland, possibly Eldgjá, though scientists still debate the exact source, had more impact on human civilization than any emperor, any war, any invention of the 6th century. It killed more people than Justinian's armies ever could. It reshaped the map of the medieval world, and the people living through it had no idea what was happening. You can visit Istanbul today. Walk the streets where that dock worker walked. The Mise is now Divan Yolu Street. The tenement blocks are gone, replaced by hotels and cafes, and tourists taking selfies. The Hippodrome is now Sultanahmet Square, where crowds gather to watch nothing but pigeons. The Golden Horn still has ships, but they're cruise liners and ferries, not grain transports from Egypt. The Hagia Sophia is still there. Same building, same walls. If you stand in the nave and look up at the dome, you're standing in the exact same space where thousands of people prayed for the sun to return in 536. They didn't know it would, but it did. And when the light finally broke through in 537, when the crops started growing again, when the sky turned blue for the first time in a year and a half, people wept. They wrote about it. They called it a miracle. Because what else do you call survival when you've lived through the worst year in human history? The ice core samples from Greenland still hold the ash from that eruption. You can see the layer from 536 in the ice, a dark band frozen in time. We know exactly when it happened. We know exactly how bad it was. We know the dock worker's life was real because we have the receipts. Grain records, tax documents, letters from bishops begging for food relief, medical texts describing the diseases that spread when people were too weak to fight them off. The sun came back. Constantinople survived. The dock worker probably didn't. Life expectancy in the late Roman world was maybe 35 years, and he was already 32 when the darkness started. But his city endured. His empire lasted another 900 years, and somewhere in the genetic code of modern Turkey, modern Greece, modern Italy, his DNA might still exist, passed down through generations who never knew his name but carried his survival in their cells. That's the legacy of 536. Not that the sun disappeared, but that people lived through it anyway.